Hello there and welcome. In this video we are discussing the best foods to feed your fish. Now, as a human, you probably wouldn't be happy to live off hamburgers or rice and beans for your entirety of your life, and fish are very similar. Giving them the right diet is very important to their long-term health, vigour, vitality and growth. If you feed your fish the wrong foods, you're going to have all sorts of health and behavioural problems. So in this video, we're going to be looking at all the different types of fish food that are available on the market. There is a huge array of different types of fish food, and it can get a little bit confusing as to which fish food you should feed your particular fish. Now, the reason that there are so many different types of fish food available is because fish come from all around the world, and a lot of them have evolved to fill certain niches and eat certain foods. And so to give these fish the best diet we can, firstly we need to identify the kinds of fish that they are and look at the kind of diet they'd have in the wild. Now, there are lots and lots of different kinds of fish that are available in shops to buy. The variety of fish available now is staggering, but they all require certain foods to survive. There are certain things that we can look at on a fish which gives us a good indication of the area of the tank that it inhabits and also the kind of food that it requires. The first one of these is actually which part of the tank it's inhabiting. Does it sit on the bottom of the tank like a Corydoras, or does it hang around the top of the aquarium like these hatchet fish? It may also just be swimming around in the middle of the tank, a little bit like these glow light tetras. This is our first indication of the kind of food that these fish require. Secondly, we look at the mouth shape. Now, mouth shape on a fish is the second big indication as to where the fish eats from. If the mouth is pointing upwards, a little bit like these gouramis, then we know that they generally take the food from the surface of the water. If, like these plex, the mouth is pointing down, we can be fairly certain that they eat from below, and in this case they scrape. Fish which have mouths in the centre of their head will tend to take food from most parts of the water column, but are generally happier when they're feeding from the mid-water. And this means they need a diet which kind of floats around in the aquarium, giving them time to pick it off. So as we can see from this, there's a wide range of different fish which require different areas of the water column to feed from, and this means we need to give them different foods. Another thing that we need to look at is actually the natural diet of the fish itself. Certain fish have evolved to eat certain foods in the wild. For instance, these Tropheus in this tank here are pretty much herbivores. Although they will take small shrimps if available, in the wild their main diet is grazing algae from rocks. Now, from this we can conclude that they probably wouldn't be happy on a high protein diet. So what we need to do is tailor their diet to their natural food source. The complete opposite to that would be these lemur shovelnose. They don't eat algae, they are a predatory fish. So we need to give them the correct diet to satisfy their predatory fish nature. And this would include very, very high protein foods. So we're going to have a look at some of the most common foods that people are able to buy and feed their fish. The most common and probably the most popular is flake. Now, flake food is the staple of all fish keepers. Most fish will accept flake. Flake food is ideal for fish that eat from the surface. The reason being is that it tends to settle on the surface of the tank and cling to the top layer of water. And this allows top feeding fish like gouramis and guppies to eat from their natural area of the aquarium. The problem with flake food is that it is generally low in nutrition, and as it does eventually sink into the aquarium, it can actually leach a lot of its nutrition out before it reaches the bottom of the tank. This could lead to problems with water quality because of the nutrients leaching out, but also by the time it reaches the bottom of the tank and your bottom feeders like loaches or Corydoras start to eat it, they may not get the full nutrition that they require. However, flake food is your general staple food. There are different types of flake food available, from flake food targeted towards goldfish to tropical fish, and there's even algae flake food specifically for those more herbivore fish, like Tanganyikan and Malawi cichlids. So now onto a more specific food, we have pellets. There's lots of different types of pellet available to buy. They are slightly different and specific to certain fish. So for instance, this particular one here, which is a JBL micro pellet, is really, really fine and is a mixture of high protein pellet, colour enhancing pellet and spirulina pellet. This is a really good high quality little pellet, but obviously it's tiny, so it's not suitable for larger fish. We have other things like this, which is from Tetra. The reason it's a really odd shape is because it is a slow sinking pellet, so it will hang around on the surface of the aquarium and then slowly sink down to the bottom. Now, pellets are generally more stable in terms of nutrients. They don't tend to lose their nutrients as they sink down. So pellets are a better food generally than flake. Now, because they sink, they are more targeted towards bottom feeding fish. However, if you get certain foods like fluval bug bites, which are a pellet, or these slow sinking pellets, then you're going to be okay feeding these to most fish. There's a large variety in size of pellets available, from the very smallest to large pellets designed to feed big fish. They also include things like algae wafers, which are specifically targeted towards plex. Another kind of food, which is a bit of a hybrid between a pellet and a flake, is the crisp. They are a nice intermediate between the flake food and the pellet, because they have all the nutrition of a pellet, but the same sort of texture and shape of a flake. This makes them really an ideal food because they're slow sinking, allowing fish from all areas of the water column to feed, but they also sink down to the bottom of the tank, allowing bottom feeders to eat them as well. Certain fish require more specialist diet. For instance, these leaf fish aren't going to be eating flake food. However, we can provide them with a large shrimp-based diet, similar to what they would eat in the wild. Now, in this particular instance, we're feeding them a mysis shrimp, because they seem to really like it. These particular fish are very hard to actually get feeding on frozen food, so it's really important to experiment with the different foods that you give them and work out what it is they're actually going to be taking. This is all part of tailoring the diet of your fish to what it would eat naturally in the wild. Now, the most common kind of frozen food which you can give to your fish is the bloodworm. Bloodworm is a very, very natural diet for a lot of fish and is very good for a lot of predatory and high protein eating fish. Feeding bloodworm and other frozen foods to your fish is a very, very good way of providing a near natural diet and introducing a lot of minerals which may not be available in the other types of food that we've discussed. It also stimulates the fish to eat in a natural way because this is similar to the kind of diet that most fish will have in the wild. It's a good food to try your fish on if they're not eating any of the flake or pellets, because it will normally stimulate them to eat and try other things. If you have even fussier fish that just won't eat anything, you can try them on live food. And live food is pretty much just as it sounds. It is a little bag of live bugs which your fish tend to want to eat. There's a wide variety of live food available. This particular one is Daphnia, but you can also get brine shrimp, bloodworm, whole shrimps, and a huge variety. So if you're really struggling to feed your fish, chuck some live food in there, and generally most things will lap it up. It's also a very good treat for your fish because being a live organism, it has a lot of nutrients in it, and it's a really good thing to give your fish as part of their main diet. So as you can see, there are tons of different foods available to buy for your fish. Now, while it's true a lot of fish can probably sustain themselves on something simply like flake, if you don't give them the correct diet and feed them the correct foods, then they won't really be living the life that they could be and have the vitality and vigor that they should. You may encounter problems such as slow growth or lack of colour and vitality, and this is down to the fact that they're not getting all the nutrients that they require because they don't have the suitable food offered to them. It can be really confusing to select the right diet and food for your fish, and that's why we go through the process of doing our research before buying the fish, but also observing it and seeing where it's eating from and where it's hanging around in the tank. From this, you can kind of deduce the kind of food it wants, i.e. something that stays at the top like a flake, or something that sinks down to the bottom like a pellet. It's also really important to look at the ingredients of the food that you're feeding your fish. Now, there is a wide and large gap between the cheapest and the most expensive fish food, and there's normally a reason for this. A lot of the cheaper fish foods have high contents of ash and lack in a lot of the nutrients that the fish require, whereas the more expensive high quality foods have less ash and fillers and actually give your fish a higher quality diet, providing them with more nutrients and sustenance. So it's very important not to buy just the cheapest generic food that you can get and opt for a more expensive food if possible, because this way you're giving your fish a better diet. It's very similar to eating low quality ramen every day or having a nice steak. There's a really clear difference in the quality of the cheapest food compared to the higher quality, more expensive food. So I hope this video has been fairly useful in letting you know about different types of fish food and what to feed your fish. If you like this video, please remember to subscribe to my channel and leave a like below. Thanks for watching and happy fish keeping!